Hello all. So today we'll see about the fundamentals of MRI. So MRI is magnetic resonance imaging. In the previous lectures you would have seen about the mathematics, physics and imaging principles for MRI. So today we'll get into few more details of MRI imaging systems. So magnetic resonance imaging is an important imaging technique and it has been used for a wide applications. You have combined modalities where MRI is combined with other imaging modalities to get a better diagnosis of body system disorders. So it appears to be a safe procedure because it can produce images with high contrast between the different tissues. So that is why it has wide applications. And the physics of MR image formation is somewhat less straightforward when compared to the other modalities of imaging. So, MRI is able to measure the density of protons in the body as a function of position. So, the protons, like every atom has a proton, neutron, and an electron, right? So, based on the protons, we are able to image the different tissues inside the body, and we are able to measure the density of the protons and also its position. So, these two things are the basis of MRI imaging. It can be also used to measure the properties which reflect the environment of the protons. And the key to understanding is to understand how the protons behave in a magnetic field. So that is what forms the basis of MRI imaging. So in previous video lecture also you would have seen how the protons react in a magnetic field, right? So that is what is the main thing about MR imaging. So the protons and its position, so how it is changing. So the first thing which we have to understand is about nuclear magnetic moment. So the nucleus of atoms are having a spin and as a consequence it acts as a small magnet. So therefore it has a magnetic moment. So this moment depends on the nature of the nucleus. So each nucleus has its own magnetic moment. Every nucleus has different size, different number of protons, neutrons and electrons. So based on that this magnetic moment will be changing. So, nuclei with even number of protons and even number of neutrons do not have a spin and they do not have a magnetic moment. Example of this type is carbon. Nuclei with even number of protons but odd number of neutrons have a spin with an integer value. And then nuclei with odd number of protons have a spin which is half integral. And the hydrogen atom, which is profoundly found inside our body, has this type of spin, which is it has a half integral spin. Moving on, here you can see the first picture is a spinning charge wherein the proton has a magnetic moment, and the second one is a circulating charge where you have a wire loop which possesses a magnetic field. So what does it denote? We are comparing the proton's magnetic moment with the electric field which produces a magnetic field. So the spinning charge electric distribution of a proton generates magnetic moment in a similar manner to the magnetic flux density produced by the electrical charge circulating in a wire coil. So when you have a coil of wire, automatically when the electrons flow in the wire, you will get a magnetic field around the wire, right? So that is what we are comparing with the atom's spin. So when the atom is having a spin, there will be a net magnetic moment for that atom. So moving on to precession. So precession is another important term in your nuclear magnetic resonance imaging. So precession is the motion made by a spinning top or gyroscope in a gravitational field. So this is like an example of precession, like a spinning top or a gyroscope is an example. So in MRI we'll be talking about the precession of atoms. So just how the top spins around its own axis, that is in a vertical direction, the atoms will be having its precession. So the frequency of precession depends on the characteristics of the nucleus and the strength of the magnetic field. So whatever the nucleus we are trying to image, whatever the tissue we are trying to image, depending on the tissue composition, this frequency of precession will be varying. So the precessional motion can take up two preferred states. either the magnetic field can be in a direction parallel to the applied magnetic field, or it can be in an anti-parallel direction. So these are the two possible states of alignment. So this alignment we call it as spin up and spin down state. So spin up is parallel direction, spin down is anti-parallel direction. So if you look at this, you can see the nucleus has a spinning electrical charge which acts as an electrical current loop and leads to the presence of a magnetic field. So the nucleus is having electrons which are like rotating around it and which is acting like a current loop, and you have a magnetic field. What happens in case of precession? It is like a top like motion. So when you have a top like the toy, right? So when you put the top from its rope, it starts rotating, and over a period of time it's like spinning around its axis. So that is what is precession. So if you look at here, precession is about the direction of the external magnetic field. That is in case of MRI. So when you apply a magnetic field, the atoms start rotating around its axis. So if you look at this picture, you can see how it is spinning around its axis. So in the direction of the applied magnetic field, the atom is like spinning, just like how the top is rotating, right? So that is what is precession. And spin up and spin down states. So you can see in this first picture, in the spin up state, the precession is about a direction parallel to the external field, that is B naught. B naught is your external magnetic field. So spin up state is parallel direction. So external magnetic field and your atom's magnetic moment will be in the same direction, that is in a parallel direction. In spin down state, the precession is about the anti-parallel direction. So your magnetic field is facing upwards, your atom's precession is facing downwards. So it is in the anti-parallel direction. That is spin down state. So if you look here, when you have an external magnetic field, there are more spins in the spin up state than there are in the spin down state. So the net magnetization vector will be having a positive value in the direction of B naught. So depending on the number of atoms in the spin up state and the spin down state, you will get your net magnetization. So when you have more number of atoms in spin up state, your net magnetization will be having positive value. If you have more atoms in spin down state, then your net magnetization will be in the direction of will be having negative value. So that is about the spin up and spin down states. Next thing is Larmor frequency. So we talked about how the nucleus is having a spin, magnetic moment, and then precession. So and the frequency is very important. We are talking about spinning, right? So the rotation, it should have some particular frequency. So that frequency determines the tissue contrast and the imaging in MRI. So if you look here, Larmor frequency is the rate of precession of a spin in an external magnetic field. The frequency is defined by the Larmor equation. Omega naught equal to gamma into B naught, where omega naught is the angular precessional frequency, which is measured in radians per second. B naught is the external magnetic field in Tesla. Gamma is the gyromagnetic ratio, which is measured in radian per second per Tesla. And we have another form of Larmor frequency, which is F naught equal to gamma by 2 pi into B naught, which comes from your relation omega equal to 2 pi f. We all know that relation, right? So angular frequency omega equal to 2 pi of f. F is your linear frequency. So based on that, we are rewriting the equation. So where f naught is your linear precessional frequency, which is measured in hertz. B naught is the external magnetic field in Tesla, and gamma by 2 pi is your gyromagnetic ratio. So gyromagnetic ratio again is one important factor in MR imaging. So if you look at the angular velocity, you can see the picture here. It has three axes, x, y and z, and then there is a rotational axis which is omega naught. So the interaction between the magnetic moment m naught with the magnetic flux density b naught results in the magnetic moment, which produces a motion with angular velocity omega naught. So omega naught is your angular velocity at which the nucleus is precessing about the axis. Next thing is gyromagnetic ratio. So the gyromagnetic ratio is a constant for a particular atomic nucleus. So in our case, the most prominent nuclei which we are imaging is hydrogen, right? So hydrogen also will have a constant gyromagnetic ratio which is 42.6 megahertz per Tesla. So the different gyromagnetic ratio depends on the characteristic frequency of different atoms in a magnetic field. So we mainly look at hydrogen atoms in MR imaging, right? So we ignore the contributions from other nuclei. So mainly the hydrogen atom, its precision, its frequency and its gyromagnetic ratio is what is given preference. So the gyromagnetic ratio of other atoms and its nucleus is also given in this table. For hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, and then sodium, potassium, all these things are here. So moving on to the magnetic field in a MR system. So field strengths in MR systems can be classified into low or ultra low, which ranges from 0.02 Tesla to 0.2 Tesla, medium, which ranges from 0.2 Tesla to 1 Tesla, and high field strength, which is 1.0 Tesla and above. So these are the three field strengths in MR systems. So the type of magnet to generate the field can be classified into three types: resistive magnets, which is mainly used for low and medium fields; permanent magnets, which is used to provide medium field strength; and superconducting magnets are used for high field strengths. So when you have a higher magnetic field strength, you will have a stronger signal, so that the signal to noise ratio will be very high. So this is about the magnetic field in a MR system. So nuclear magnetic resonance. So we talked about magnetic moment, spin, and then gyromagnetic ratio, Larmor frequency, precision, all these things we have talked about. So what exactly is this nuclear magnetic resonance? So when you have an energy absorption, that is what causes the nuclear magnetic resonance. So when you have that energy absorbed at the frequency which is same as the Larmor frequency, then that causes nuclear magnetic resonance. So when you don't have the Larmor frequency, then the energy won't be absorbed. So that resonant frequency where the nucleus is precessing and it is at its Larmor frequency, then it is called a nuclear magnetic resonance. So when we talk about the hydrogen nucleus, we use a radio frequency range because the Larmor frequency of hydrogen nucleus corresponds with the radio frequency range in the electromagnetic spectrum. So when we talk about the components of an MRI system in the upcoming lectures, we will see about the different coils and its purpose in detail. But why we choose the radio frequency coils in MR system is that the Larmor frequency of hydrogen nuclei corresponds to the radio frequency range in the electromagnetic spectrum. So the absorption at the RF radiation has a net effect in the net magnetization vector. So we talked about three planes, right? X, Y and Z planes, and we talk about the net magnetization in different planes, right? So that absorption will make the atom move to the XY plane. So that is why the radio frequency coils and the generation of RF pulse is like the second main component in an MR system. So basically when the atom is rotating around the axis and we apply a radio frequency pulse, it shifts 90-degree and then again it comes back to the equilibrium position. So this change in the frequency, change in rotation, change in axis, all these things contribute to the imaging contrast in your MR systems. So you would have seen all these things about the brief history of MRI video, right? I have shared that already. So in that you can clearly see how the atom and its rotation is changing with respect to the change in magnetic field. Next thing which is very important is the coordinate system. So you can see the net magnetization which is B naught, and you have three axes X, Y, Z, and there is another rotational field which is M. So this is the coordinate system used in MRI. So the main magnetic field is applied in the Z direction and the signal is measured in the XY plane. So the magnetization is applied in Z direction, signal is measured in XY direction. This is very important. Net magnetization vector arises from the combined effect of small magnetic fields possessed by the nuclei. And resolving of the vectors, again we have discussed this in the previous lectures. We can resolve it in Z direction and also in the XY plane. So the components of magnetization, if you again take into detail of resolving the vectors, you can see there is a longitudinal magnetization and a transverse magnetization. So the Z component is the longitudinal magnetization, that is MZ. And then we measure the components at right angles. So this right angle component is MXY, which is the transverse magnetization, which is measured in your XY plane. So again we have two things. One is full magnetization, another one is saturation. So when the MZ component is maximum, then the system is said to be fully magnetized. Saturation is just the opposite of full magnetization. Here MZ component is 0, that is after a 90-degree flip, that is a flip angle between M and Z axis is 90 degree. So if you look at here, along the Z component you don't have any magnetization, and along the XY plane you have a 90-degree flip and the magnetization is in the XY plane. So this is called as saturation. So when it is fully magnetized, the MZ component will be maximum. When it is saturated, there will be no MZ component, that is MZ is 0. This is one thing we have to remember. So the system is said to be saturated when the net magnetization vector lies in the XY plane, so that the M component is 0. Another important thing is free induction decay signal. So if you look here, for the measurement of the signal, the XY component is resolved into X and Y components. So previously we resolved it into Z and XY plane, right? So now again the XY plane is resolved into X and Y components, which is real and imaginary, or in phase and in quadrature components. All these things we have seen in the mathematics and basics of MRA lecture, right? So if you look here, each component is a sine function because of the rotation of the MXY. So which means it's a sinusoidal signal which is modulated by a exponential function. This measured signal is known as free induction decay. So if you look at the figure, you can see the sinusoidal signal is like modulated by a exponential function. So it is exponentially decaying over time. So the solid line shows the free induction decay signal, and the dotted line is the modulated by the exponential decay function, which is exponential of minus t by t2. So this is a free induction decay signal. So all these things play a vital part when we are actually measuring the MR signal. In the upcoming lecture, we will try to understand this free induction decay and the relaxation, the recovery, and the pulse sequences. All these things we will try to understand in the upcoming lectures. So, and the another one component is your RF coil. So mainly we use RF coil for two purposes. One is for transmitting, another one is for receiving. So the transmitting coils are used to generate the pulses, and then RF coils, receiver RF coils are used to acquire the emitted signal. So these coils can be of a loop or multiple loop or wire, so it can be of any type. So again it can be categorized into two types. One is body coil, which is like the main bore of the field magnet. It can transmit and receive, it can perform both the functions. Second one is surface coil, which is mainly used for receiving, and it gives high signal to noise ratio for images for a particular anatomical site. So when we are just focusing on brain, or when you are just imaging any other particular organ, at that time we will activate the surface coils. So another one thing is phased array coil, which is used to cover a larger field of view. So this array is made up of several coils, each with its own receiver. So these are the different types of RF coils in a MR system. So these are the books that I have referred for preparing this PPT. You can also refer this. So with this I will stop this lecture, and in the next lecture we will see more about the pulse sequences and the relaxation times.